Hello, hi, I'm Shilpa Vohra, and I'm an interview readiness coach. And I have been working in the for around last 22 years in the area of academics, then into training. I've trained more than 3,000 employees across various organizations in soft skills. I'm an author also. And today it's my pleasure to welcome over here George, who will be joining us shortly. And we'll be looking at a series of podcasts wherein we'll be talking in terms of interview readiness. So, how do we look at the general interview readiness that could be there? Thank you so much. So, very warm welcome, George, and everyone else who is watching this particular podcast. And it's a pleasure to have you over here with us. So, I'll request George to introduce himself.
Thank you so much, Shilpa. I'm George Ochieng. I'm a career coach, precisely a global career coach. We created a platform recently, about 2-3 months ago on LinkedIn, that is called Global Career Innovation, which seeks to incorporate camaraderie, creativity, and mutuality that is in terms of collaboration. And I'm so grateful that it's through this network that I was able to meet you, even though I've been interacting with your work over time.
Yeah, we are here today to collaborate on this particular topic only, that how do we prepare our students, in terms of students or potential candidates as far as their interview preparation skills are concerned. So let's take ahead. So generally, what's your experience? We both could share our experience in these areas. So how do you think a candidate needs to prepare for interview?
The first preparation begins with what I would call mental, or rather otherwise psychological. It's about what is your view of yourself, a general view of yourself, a self-concept. Because you must value yourself before people value you. And when you go out there, talking about what others, I've just received a challenge from a colleague who is asking me to share about 28 quotes, which they want to include in an international magazine. And so this actually challenges me to imagine that the first victory is the victory over self. Who am I in terms of my own identity, in terms of my own contribution to social change? Where am I coming from? Where am I currently? Where am I going in terms of my destination? And how do I calibrate that to actually tell a story? Because the only sense of career preparedness is to proclaim or even to provide a uniqueness, because there's so many people competing with us in the same space. And so one has got to clearly redefine or even define themselves in terms of their value proposition.
I totally agree. And in course of our curriculum also, so I'm associated with a lot of B schools over here in Mumbai, and I have taken up industry readiness programs for them, and they've been very effective in terms of ensuring that students are getting placed, especially ones who are not getting placed. So this is also a beginning point for me, what you have shared across, George, and I totally agree with that. And what I do is a self evaluation along with what you have said. What is your area of interest is another thing that I would want my students to know, and what are they good at, and how is their past academic record. So that also would matter. Knowing themselves in terms of the value systems that they would bring, and also understanding, and maybe doing a few psychometric tests on them, make them understand themselves better in terms of their needs. So we all have different needs. Maybe we have a need for affiliation, or it could be for power, or it could be for accomplishments. So you need to understand your inner desires, like as you have correctly stated. When we're able to align, what I feel, these particular inner drivers with our career choices, then it becomes better. And if we are aware about it, then as rightly stated by you, we'll be able to answer the questions also correctly. Because one of the most frequently asked questions over here the 5 FAQs is, why should we hire you? And the answer for this, why should we hire you, comes from within only.
Yes, why should we hire you? But before I even come to that, India is predominantly patriarchal, and the
Yes.
career choices tend to be defined by the family, that is community, as opposed to the individual choices. So the psychometric test and many other tests work well, but in the Indian context, how are you navigating this cultural challenge?
So, in all honesty, I mean, this is the first time I even thought about this, that we are patriarchal and the choices come from there. Because from what I see around where my students are concerned, maybe because I'm staying in a metro city, I'm staying in Mumbai, I'm not experiencing this. So women here are very emancipated, I'll say. Girls are emancipated nowadays, and they make their own choices as far as careers are concerned. So these are not driven by, maybe true 20, 30 years ago, but not now. Maybe true also, in all fairness, maybe true where we look at the more rural network, So that could be there. But over here in the metro cities, the tier 1, tier 2 cities, women are taking, I'll say, they're growing by leaps and bounds.
Yeah, congratulations. Affirmative action is very common within the mega cities like Mumbai and of course Nairobi. And it just takes me back to what you're sharing. Why should we hire you? One of those interesting moments, how one needed to come out and talk about themselves. And one of the immediate things that comes to my mind is what I have found. There are two tiers to this, where sometimes people look at themselves and they really are not able to communicate their value. Because when we want to say, why should I hire you? The first thing is that every organization have got their own challenges. People don't just hire for the sake of hiring. And you don't just hire to, fill positions. You hire because there are challenges. And so the first thing about this is actually the individual needs to have taken their, ample time to do background check on the organization to see the current challenges in terms of the industry specific challenges. But then we are also now talking about global education right now, so that we are looking at it in terms of when we ask you about you coming together into a space, or rather coming to a space, you want us to clearly tell us, it's like, I would say, what is your price tag? But then in terms of who are we also, so that there is a connecting point in terms of your value and in terms of our need. And so, that question for me takes those kind of two dimensions.